Hey everyone, welcome to another video. Remember to hit that subscribe button because it is time to dial back the clock a little and talk about a really special season of television in the first season of True Detective. So let's get into it. So for those of you who don't know, True Detective is quite a critically acclaimed show that follows a different group of detectives each season in a completely different story. Season 1 stars Matthew McConaughey as Rustin Cole, a detective who is more or less a loner, but is extremely talented and committed as a detective. He's working a case alongside Woody Harrelson's Marty, who is more or less your typical kind of cop character. He's a family man who drinks a lot at bars and seems like he is well liked amongst his peers. Instantly, pretty much from when this show starts, these two characters are at odds with one another as Cole has a very nihilistic view on the world, which Marty just cannot stomach at all. Cole doesn't seem to like too many people and doesn't have a whole lot of empathy for people who commit wrongdoings, which once again makes him a very good detective because he seems impossible to manipulate. Anyway, the case that these two detectives are following is based off what is suspected to be the works of a serial killer who has a very ritualistic way of murdering their victims. The minute we see this body, it is bone chilling, and honestly from that moment on I was just hooked on this show. There are a few TV shows like this where it is handled so confidently from the jump. This season just knows it's a masterpiece, and honestly I haven't seen that level of confidence in a drama show since Breaking Bad. This manages to be so gripping the whole way through its entire season as we explore so many avenues of this case, which also gives us a darker side to the detectives' lives as well. I also adore the way this show is presented. This has characters getting interviewed as they are older, recounting on the events of the past. The show progressively advances in time and continues the story from where they are in the present. It is a fascinating way to present this story as they mention events in the future, but they are vague enough where you can kind of question what happened that led to that moment. The audience at times feels like a detective at times trying to follow the breadcrumbs that the story gives you. I think something that really adds to the quality of this season overall is the direction from Cary Joji Fukunaga, who really decides to make some pretty bold creative choices in terms of how he wants to present information to you. He reveals it at a moment where you are just at peak suspense and you are dying for that answer. For example, there are scenes where a character is just looking at something and the performance just sells it all, from Woody Harrelson to Matthew McConaughey. And you are just so curious as to what is making them react a certain way or influence them to do something they wouldn't normally do. And then it reveals it to you, making the moment feel far more impactful and memorable. It's something that is sometimes present in this genre, but not like this. An example of this comes from a scene which I'm going to spoil from episode 3, so skip ahead about a minute if you don't want to hear it and you just want to figure out what happens in this show blind, which I highly recommend you do. But when Woody Harrelson sees two kids chained up who have clearly been abused, it makes him run over to the criminal and shoot him in the head. You don't see the revelation of the kids chained up until after he shoots him, and because you see him do that first, you're thinking, what took place or what happened that made him do that? And the show always gives you a good reason as to why certain actions take place, and I absolutely love that form of storytelling in this genre. I also really want to talk to you about how the story evolves as it goes on and why this truly is one of the best detective thrillers out there. The show wants to explore these characters, not just the case, and it points the finger at a lot of people who have potentially committed these crimes that they are investigating. And the absolute brilliance in Nick Pizzolatto's screenplay is he will make you consider all of the options. You have seen enough evidence that a character is surely innocent, but there is also enough evidence even the smallest amount that makes you question that. And you're thinking maybe that they are the person that did it. This show does not let up until we get that final reveal of who did it and how they have been doing it all of these years. The thing that is brilliant about True Detective Season 1 is that these kinds of stories and the genre that it's in hinge on that final revelation. It can truly make or break the story. And when you have a build up like this that is full of suspense and completely changes the lives of the characters within the story, it adds more pressure for it to really live up to that build up. And a lot of stories I have seen in the past where it just cannot live up to the build up and it breaks the story. But this show is extremely special because fortunately this nails the landing and gives a reveal that I wouldn't call shocking, but it definitely pivoted the show in a way that makes the final episode and that final act just so satisfying. Final half an hour of the show, which I won't spoil, was masterful in having so many moments that felt truly unpredictable. I might have had 1,000 or so theories as to what might happen before it actually happened, and this show always picked the best option that would always surprise me, and I truly would not have changed a single thing. I also want to talk about the praise long take sequence. It was truly brilliant. I'm not going to disagree with anyone there. It was fantastic. It didn't feel overly showy. I wasn't really paying attention to the whole technicality of the long take until it pretty much ended. But the way that the camera moves with Cole was a very immersive experience and sequence. And I can't believe they actually pulled that off as seamless as they did. The sequence also breaks down a lot about this character as well without really saying too much, which I have to say is brilliant filmmaking in a TV show, which I don't think I have ever seen in that medium before. Well, at least not like this. Then we have the performances, and they are truly some of the best in the genre, hands down. You have Woody Harrelson probably giving the best performance I've ever seen from him. This is a defining role and is just an excellent part of his long career. And then you have Matthew McConaughey also giving some of the best work of his career. It's hard for me to say if this actually was his best performance, because he truly killed it as an actor during this era. I actually am working on a video that will release sometime soon about the period where McConaughey was maybe the best actor around during that time period. And this was one of the last performances in that era, and it was immaculate. I honestly think his performance was the most impressive in the show. His character is very layered, and he sells so much just from his facial expressions and the way he talks and moves. Fun fact, Matthew McConaughey was intended to be cast as Marty, Woody Harrelson's character, but he said that this character, Cole, was the one who made him want to turn the page of the screenplay. And he couldn't be more right. It is one of the best characters in TV, and McConaughey just bodies that role. You know, you see on TikTok or whatever, when that I Am Lost song plays and it's like best acting ever and it's a bunch of people screaming in scenes. Well, this is the complete opposite. This may be one of the greatest performances that utilizes silence. His character doesn't yell too often, but when he does, it is truly powerful. But I was more impressed with the scenes where he's just trying to figure something out, and you can just see the toll that this case has taken on him just by his facial expressions. It is an acting masterclass by one of the best to ever do it, and I'll be forever impressed by what he did with this role. Overall, True Detective Season 1 is truly one of the greatest seasons of television that I have ever seen. It is 8 episodes long, and it just told the story just the way it was intended. It managed to hook me from episode to episode, and I'll tell you right now that if I didn't have to go to work each day, I would have binge watched the hell out of this show. I'm kind of glad that I didn't though, because the details just sink in a little more when you give yourself a little bit of time between episodes, but it was just so irresistibly good. I'm going to give True Detective Season 1 obviously a 5 out of 5. one of the few that I have ever given for a season of television, and it is truly deserving of the word masterpiece. I highly recommend this one, and I'm excited to check out the other seasons to see what's in store there. I am skeptical that they won't be as good as this because it's just such a tough act to follow, but I'll check them out and see what happens. Anyway, those are my thoughts towards True Detective Season 1. If you have seen it, tell me what you think about it in the comments below. I know I'm really late to the party here, but this was just so good, and it just reminds me of why I'm so passionate about these forms of entertainment when they're told so brilliantly, and they're so innovative and just gripping. And True Detective really embodied that for me. But yeah, I really want to know what you think about the show, so please let me know in the comments. I am also still working on those videos that I mentioned in my previous video. So to see those when they release, make sure to hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.